All right. With that said, let's move on to our next topic. Lamine Yamal, kind of a similar thing. The dude's a prodigy, 16 years old, just turned 16 in July, youngest goal scorer ever in the Champions League. Now, after this weekend, youngest goal scorer in a 2-2 draw in La Liga history, getting not a highlight reel goal. I mean, we walked it into the net, but nice pass by João Felix. Nevertheless, the 16-year-old did score. My question to you, Shaka, is how do they preserve this young man? Because we've seen, particularly at Barcelona, and we've seen other young players be kind of
Hmm.
ground out at a young age. There's already rumors as he's going to Spain that he may be carrying an injury. We'll see what happens in this international break. How do you preserve to make sure that this young man continues to progress and maybe can become one of the greats?
I think you have to be very delicate in how you handle players like Yamin Lamal. Um, in that it's yes, he's in rarefied air in terms of his achievements in scoring for Spain, in scoring for Barcelona, and being the youngest ever scorer in La Liga, and therefore that comes with an expectation. And again, as per our previous discussion, the labels that come with it. Oh, he's going to be the next Lionel Messi. He's going to be the next whatever name comes to mind. Now, I had a look at the top six, or if top is the right word, six youngest scorers in La Liga history, and there's only one name on there that I recognize, and that is Ika Munyain, who plays for Bilbao. The others, while scoring at 16 and a few more days than Yamal, kind of faded. I think I'm right in saying, please correct me if I got that wrong, but the other names just did not ring as having achieved the expectation that scoring in one of Europe's top five leagues as a 16-year-old would seem to suggest. But at the same time, and as much as we get to know more about science and fitness, particularly around our sports, um, you have to balance the fact that he's still growing, that the
Mhm.
physical demands on a player at this level are greater than I think we really truly appreciate, even still. So you've got to manage his minutes, got to manage his appearances, his injuries, um, and think long term in terms of his development and his contributions. Too often we see talents such as his, and the cliche being, well, if you're good enough, you're old enough, and just throw him out every single week. I don't think you can do that, or at least I don't think you can do that and get 15 years out of him, 15 productive years out of him, as you may hope. So it is a balancing act for Xavi and Barcelona and Spain. The challenge being right now is Barcelona are suffering injuries, and
Mhm.
Barcelona are already, albeit, well, I think they were just 2 points, 2 points behind Real Madrid, are
Mhm.
already playing catch up to Real Madrid. But they Xavi now has to call on him because there's an immediate need. The trouble is you don't want to stunt Yamal's career, um, in doing that right now.
One other thing on this, real quick, though, because we've seen Barcelona, obviously with Gabby and Pedri, they're kind of going through it right
Yeah.
now with those young men. Ansu Fati, it seemed like he was going to be the next thing, and now he's playing for Brighton and doing a pretty good job. So like they've struggled to find this, but from a mental standpoint, as we were just talking before about players with certain nationalities, you're heaped on these greats. Pele connected to Brazilians, and who's the next Pele? Um, who's the next Messi is going to be commonly discussed. And Yamal is the latest to be discussed in that breath. How do you handle that from a mental standpoint? Is that something that should be addressed and talked about with him? Like, how do you try to square that circle to make sure he doesn't feel what the
Yeah.
outside world is heaping that on him?
Absolutely, and I think that's on Xavi and Barcelona Football Club to protect him, because it, what is said on social media or on platforms such as this is not is they as a club can't control, nor is it for them to control or monitor. Their responsibility as a player, and for him to understand what it is, because we'll all have these discussions, as I say, whether it's on platforms as formal as this, or whether it's on social media or sitting with friends. We'll have those conversations. And what is kind of missed in us having those conversations is that we're talking about a 16-year-old. And we were all 16 once upon a time. Granted, none of us were playing for Barcelona at 16, but God forbid people were heaping that kind of praise on us as 16 years old, and how that would have shaped our psyche, rightly or wrongly, and probably more, if it's not managed, wrongly. I think that kind of adulation, that kind of notoriety, warps your psyche if it's not managed. So that's for Barcelona and Xavi and those who've kind of been there to make sure that Lamine Yamal understands what's happening, and that as quickly as people sing your praises, they'll stop when the performances don't, and they don't bear any responsibility for how good or how long his career lasts.